My name is Liz Milan, and I am a high school social studies teacher at Polaris Expeditionary Learning School in Fort Collins. And I'm here to show you some of the interactive notebooks that my students have done in U.S. History class. So, my students that work in these notebooks are juniors and seniors, and they start class with a regular notebook like this. Just usually have it bound because high school kids will just rip stuff out and start over. And then by the end of class, they're usually kind of ripped up and destroyed, which is good. That's the point. So, like I said, my students are juniors and seniors, and we start this for U.S. History class, which is a mandatory class for graduation. And I started doing these last year, which was 2011, to help my kids work on making stuff permanent and doing a good job on the first try, and then also having kind of a record of all the historical things that we've done throughout the semester. So, that's where I started, and they've turned out to be really good, and I do them every year. So, here are some examples of what my students do, and I'll talk a little bit about how I organize them, and the buy-in factor with kids, and then how I grade them, and some of the things that seem to really work. So, the first way that I organize the books is at the beginning. The students all get a sheet like this, and this is how they keep track of their assignments. So we have the page numbers that are really specific, and then I give them the first few assignments on the sheet to give them an example, and then they just fill in the rest as we go. And then they have a due date that they should keep up. This is mine, so obviously I didn't. And then a box for them to use if they turned it in or not. So after we do that, we do an intro project where they have to put a cover page in, and then they will choose a historical quote, and we talk about what being a historian is all about. So here's an example of a student's work last year, and he chose a different quote, and up here is another example of a cover that a student did, and then also their quote and their explanation. So at this point in my class, the books are actually fairly similar. You can see there's kind of some slight deviation. So as we move through, I give kids specific page numbers and some parameters to work with. So, for example, this Native American page, I told them that they needed to color their map and they needed to give me information about the Native Americans. So this student had all of their information on this regular piece of notebook paper, so he put that in, and here's his map. This other student drew some stuff around his map, and then his information is next to it. So having the numbers of the pages correspond to the same assignment make it really easy to grade, and it also keeps kids from going rogue and doing like 8 pages about something and 1 page about something else. The more important something is, or the more information we have about it, the more pages we do. So, kids don't really have a problem buying into this project. They really like it. They think it's fun that they get to create their own stuff. If you look through these books, there's kind of a wide variation. This student is really, really artistic, so a lot of her work has some of these really incredible drawings in them. So she enjoyed this project because it gave her an opportunity to do some really amazing artwork to help her understand history, because that's how she processes stuff. This book is mostly in pencil, and there's not a lot of color in it. This book, is it a freak? Nope, this book had lots of color, but she's not quite as artistic, but a lot of things in there. So students kind of buy in because it's absolutely their project. So last year when I was grading, I just sort of went through and assessed them based on if they met the parameters that I was asking for or not. This year I have a rubric for them, so they know that on each page they need to put effort into it, and they need to answer 2 of our historical questions, and there's a variety of other things that they're assessed on always, and that seems to help quite a bit. The other thing I do is I don't write in their books. As high school students, I don't think they want me writing in their books because they work really hard in them. So I have a grade sheet that has a list of assignments for the week, and then I will put their grades on that and leave any comments for them to keep there. So the last thing is the strategies that really work for me, and that is making sure that they're organized and kept up to date. I have a poster in my classroom that lists all the pages and all the assignments. Other things is I have a huge area of supplies that seem to really help. So markers, colored pencils, crayons, different types of paper, lots of glue, kids bring in paint, and sort of really letting them be creative is something that's really successful at the high school level. And the other thing is, just because they're putting stuff in their notebook doesn't mean that we don't do things like this. So this is a primary source that we read, and here is the primary source worksheet that we would do in history class. So it's asking them questions they have, answers to their questions, what they found interesting, what they want to know more about. And instead of just doing this worksheet and throwing away their reading, they now have a pocket, or they put it in their book some other how. Some kids use clips or tape it on the inside of their book. But one of the really big advantages about these is they have everything that we've done all semester. The last thing that we do that's really interesting is at the end of the semester, they go through and assess themselves on their learning targets. So these are the learning targets that they were supposed to get throughout class. So this one says, I can critically analyze primary and secondary sources. And instead of doing a table of contents at the beginning of the book, we do a table of contents kind of at the end based on their learning targets. So they go through and pick the pages and that demonstrate that they've met learning target 1 or 2. The other thing is Polaris has some global learning targets like knowledge and reasoning and risk-taking, so they also do these pages for them. So you can see, like, here are all the things that they felt like demonstrated knowledge. Here are the few things that they felt like demonstrated risk-taking or reasoning or communication, and these are different for all kids. And then to finish the semester, students write a letter, so a Dear Reader letter, and in those they explain what their book is about and what they hope that somebody can learn from them, and that's a really cool way for them to sum up the project and really finalize it and make it their own. So, if you have any questions, my email is below, or you can visit our class website at thelizardclassroom.weebly.com.